Good afternoon to everyone, curators, art historians, galleries, librarians, students, friends. My name is Milo Keller and I'm the head of the Bachelor and Master Photography at Ecole, where we are, the University of Art and Design of Lausanne in Switzerland. I'm also really honored to be a board member of Spectrum, the association who promote the network for institutions and individuals of the photography community in Switzerland. I would like to give to all of you a virtual but really warm welcome to Ecole, from where we organized and broadcast the Spectrum event What's Next 2021, presenting the exciting programs of 20 Swiss institutions in the photography field. I know we miss traveling, visits, and gathering, and probably you are just bored, as I am, of online conferences, meetings, and teachings. But together with Spectrum President Urs Tael and the great collaboration of Melissa Aslan from Spectrum and Florian Amoser from Ecole, we worked intensely over the last weeks until the last minute to maintain the event and make it accessible, appealing, despite the distances. I hope you will enjoy it. Today, in between the institutional presentation, as visual appetizer, interlude, and dessert, we propose you the works of 3 Ecole Master in Photography students, Maeva Bosco, Sarah Bastai, and Manchin Sang, and their 3 robots. The artworks were supervised by Fotomuseum Winterthur curator and Ecole teacher Marco De Mutis in the framework of our research project, Automated Photography. Sarah Bastai, Maeva Bosco, and Manchin Sang programmed and delegated to the machine the visual performance you are going to discover in this exceptional world premiere. Maeva Bots analyzed the Fotostiftung public archive, Sarah Robot dig into her private photo collection, and at the end, Manchin activate automatic random snapshot phase filter on the board of Spectrum. Dear guests, in this unusual, challenging year, is it difficult to predict the future? Probably the programs that are going to be presented this afternoon will have to adapt in 2021 to an uncertain and challenging future. Let's stay optimistic, united, and despite instability, let's claim for creative solutions to share our vision on the photographic future. Now, I'm thrilled to introduce to you Spectrum President Urs Tael.
Good afternoon. I'm Urs Tael, the president of Spectrum Photography in Switzerland. This association has its only aim to reunite all efforts of photography done in Switzerland. So we are super happy that we can reunite this afternoon 20 institutions which will show us their most important project of next year and share it together with you. You're right now 179 members participating on this Zoom event. And we try to make this Zoom event as interesting and lively as possible. So we follow a Pecha Kucha element. That means that every person, every institution presenting its project has only 6 minutes and 40 seconds. And 10 seconds later, the next one is coming. There will be a break after 10 institutions, and there will be again this automatic photography intervention by the students of Ecole. So you will be seriously entertained, and at the same time, you get a lot of information what is happening in Switzerland right now. So I just say, enjoy yourselves. We are starting now.
We have a full understanding of the virus, and at the same time, keep to make sure that we economic therefore, we propose so-called green areas fast give priority and like
the all political parties should be specific there.
We are heavily affected by
The difference is exploited.
we cannot change. Therefore, we need to
Many more body parts
I'm not sure.
and to be politicized. Quarantine.
Caroline, are you here?
Oui, yes.
So if you're ready, we can start.
We can.
Go. Go.
Alors, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je sais que nous sommes ici, enfin bon, plutôt ici et là, pour parler d'avenir, mais je me permets quand même un petit retour en arrière. Il y a 2 ans à Berne, je vous avais annoncé le déménagement du festival Alpus 1000 de Rossinière aux montagnes neuchâteloises. C'était un pari et il a réussi. Donc Alpus 1000, c'est une biennale de photographie en lien avec la montagne et le festival Nouvelle Mouture s'est tenu en septembre 2019 durant 3 semaines sur 3 sites. On a eu la chance d'avoir une bonne météo et plus de 10 000 visiteurs ont parcouru les expositions. Donc, vous venez de voir les images de ce qui a été montré au musée des beaux-arts du Locle, une installation du festival Image, une autre de Noémie Goudal. Ici, nous sommes à la ferme du Grand Cachot devant un très beau site du XVIe siècle. Nous avons présenté une exposition collective sur la trace de l'homme sur les sommets avec des œuvres de Renate Haller, Arnaud Teicher ou Iris Outeguer. Le 3e site du festival était le lac des Taillères. On a invité le collectif Project Pressure, des artistes et des scientifiques réunis par Klaus Tiemann pour tenter de mobiliser contre le réchauffement climatique. Donc on arrive à la prochaine édition. Elle se tiendra en septembre 2021 dans la même région. Au musée des beaux-arts du Locle, Nathalie Ersdorfer proposera avec BelleVue un focus sur la photographie de montagne, notamment au moment de sa naissance. En Suisse, la photographie de montagne s'est développée parallèlement à l'alpinisme. Les premières générations de photographes ont emmené dès le milieu du 19e siècle leur équipement lors d'excursions dans les Alpes. Les premières images étaient largement influencées par les canons de la peinture et peu à peu, ils ont fabriqué un imaginaire de la montagne qui perdure encore aujourd'hui. Alors pour cette exposition, l'institution collabore avec près de 15 collections publiques et privées de Suisse, de toutes les régions. Elles sont réunies pour la première fois au sein d'un même programme. Il y aura le musée d'art du Valais, par exemple, la Fotostiftung de Winterthur ou encore le musée alpin de Berne. Et pendant que je vous parlais, vous avez vu des œuvres tirées des collections de Nicolas Crispieni, Shabazi Shirana et cette impressionnante avalanche de Jan Gross. Dans la vallée de la Brévine, une 2e exposition collective, mais plus contemporaine, sera organisée sur la notion d'artificialité, parce que la thématique de cette prochaine édition sera une réflexion sur ce qui, à la montagne, relève du naturel ou du fabriqué. On a toujours l'impression, en effet, que la montagne représente le paysage vierge, immuable, par essence, par excellence, mais en fait, non. Il est largement travaillé par l'homme, tout comme sa flore et sa faune. Alors, vous pourrez voir une très belle série d'Yuri Andries, c'est cette image-là, sur la nouvelle route de la soie en Chine. La Tessinoise Nelly Rodriguez, elle, a travaillé sur les ermites des montagnes, la manière dont ils se fondent dans le territoire. Vous avez maintenant sous les yeux des monceaux de gravats photographiés par Jean Lee sur des chantiers. Alors, on ne sait plus s'il s'agit d'un vrai ou d'un faux paysage et surtout, quelle est son échelle. Et puis Céline Clanet propose une réflexion sur l'idée d'élever des rennes sauvages en Laponie, donc le paradoxe se trouve dans les termes, et puis un magnifique reportage sur la migration des rennes qui s'effectue dorénavant souvent en bateau, depuis que la glace est devenue trop fine pour les laisser emprunter leur route traditionnelle et du coup plus naturelle et instinctive. Au bord du lac des Taillères, enfin, c'est l'exposition Flora qui prendra corps, un immense champ planté de fleurs de toutes sortes, des sauvages, des artificiels, des bouquets composés. L'exposition offrira aux visiteurs une promenade dans un pâturage coloré et montrera à quel point ce thème a inspiré toutes les générations de photographes en Suisse et dans le reste du monde. Depuis toujours, les artistes se sont intéressés aux fleurs pour leur esthétique, pour leur propriété ou pour leur représentation symbolique. Les photographes contemporains capturent leur caractère fragile, éphémère, questionnent le naturel et l'artificiel, là encore. Alors sur vos écrans, pendant que je parlais, des œuvres d'Anna Almschudel, Daniel Gordon, Trevor Paglen et Mathieu Gafsou. Voilà, j'espère que ces quelques images et explications vous donneront envie de visiter le festival l'année prochaine. Je vous remercie et à bientôt, j'espère.
Elide Brunati, she is the manager of the Artphiliein Library, will now talk about the main subject of this institution. She will talk about the photo books in their collection.
Thank you, Style, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Elide Brunati, and I run the Artphiliein Library with the director, Caterina De Pietri, co-curator of the project we are presenting today, that is based on photo books on minds. But before I explain our project, let me introduce the Artphiliein Library and the Pietri Artphiliein Foundation, who we are and where we are from. Founded in 2019 as a spin-off of the Pietri Artphiliein Foundation, Artphiliein Library aims at promoting the culture of photo books. Over decades of research and selection, with particular attention to the contemporary sphere, initially Caterina and Gianfranco De Pietri, and then after 2006, the De Pietri Artphiliein Foundation, put together a vast collection of books, both of and about photography, where a special attention is paid to artists' photo books and independent publishing projects. Our keywords are participation and sharing. Library users thus be offered an annual exhibition with 30 photo books selected by an artist. Now we have a selection of books by Tonatiuh Ambrosetti, accompanied by conferences and other exhibition occasions for encounters and opportunities for reflection. In the meantime, the Foundation continues to expand the book collection of the Artphiliein Library. Our project, Keeping Track Photo Books on Minds. During 2021, at the Artphiliein Library, we will present to public attention a curated wide selection of books on minds. All volumes belong to our collection and have been acquired during several years of research and study. Our main interest and focus falls on the consequences related to the existence, past or current, of the minds, placing the emphasis on the resulting environmental and social impacts. The exhibition of the proposed selection of books will not be static, but will be achieved at 3 levels. Physically, at our space in Lugano, on the web, on our website and socials, and in an itinerant format at venues in collaboration with other cultural institutions we are in the process of identifying. In addition, we will launch a photo contest on this topic with the aim to select an image each of 26 artists to be included in a new photo book published by Artphiliein edition and in an exhibition scheduled in autumn 2021. To help the participants to go deeper into the theme, we are preparing a detailed description and visual documentation on these books selected, around 100, that will be available also to the public. Now, let me read some sentences from an essay written by Caterina De Pietri on this specific topic. On the theme of minds, the first photography books to enter the collection of the Artphiliein Library were those of Bern and Illa Baker, David Goldblatt, Sebastião Salgado, and others, more along the lines and of an interest in the expressive medium of photography, in which the subjects, the minds, were central yet not sufficiently crucial to form the basis of a collection revolving around the subject. The turning point and the start of a specific collection of photography books on minds, the upshot of many years of research and exploration, came with my identification of two particular approaches to the exploitation of natural resources: open pit mining and mountain top removal, which, for example, has now been practiced for 35 years in the Appalachians. New technologies and machinery allow for the exploitation of the deposits of raw materials in ever shorter periods of time and with the deployment of ever more effective destructive approaches. With the obstinate and persistent collection of photography books on and around mines, Artphiliein Library intends to document, testify, and denounce. Those who browse through these books and read the text made us reflect on the use of natural resources, on how we as human race intend to relate to the environment and to our planet Earth, and on our possible future. I thank you very much, and I invite you to visit us in Lugano. We have a library, yes, but also an exhibition space and a bookshop called Choisy. And we also are a publishing house, the Artphiliein edition, that now has around 25 titles. And all our contacts are here, and thank you again, and hope to see you soon in person.
Regine Flori and Nadine Reinert, they run an institution in Basel called BelleVue, Beautiful Sight. And they are planning an exhibition about the life and work in their smaller part of the city called Klein Basel. Regine and Nadine, are you ready?
Yes.
Can you start now?
Yeah, it's all right. Thank you very much.
Okay, have a go.
BelleVue, Ort für Fotografie, befindet sich im Herzen von Klein-Basel. Mein Name ist Regine Fluri. Ich darf hier den Verein BelleVue repräsentieren, und ich danke Ihnen vielmals fürs Zuhören. Wir sind als Verein eben organisiert, haben ca. 180 Teilnehmer, Members, und 30 Leute, die aktiv mitmachen. Unser Ziel ist eben in der Region Basel die Fotografie zu stärken, die Fotografie zu fördern, junge Talente zu entdecken und zu unterstützen. Und wir sind mittlerweile sehr gut unterwegs und auch gut vernetzt in der Schweiz. Sie sehen hier Bilder unserer letzten Ausstellungen, die wir da präsentieren dürfen. Dann haben wir auch ein BelleVue Atelier, ein Format, wo wir eben die Leute, die Fotografierenden persönlich begleiten und unterstützen. Und das folgende Projekt, das ich Ihnen jetzt vorstelle, findet 2021 statt. Es steht in der Reihe eines Langzeitprojektes. Das erste war Past and Post Fotografie in Archiv und Netz. Das zeigten wir diesen Frühling und es war ein großer Erfolg. Es war die Zusammenarbeit mit dem Staatsarchiv Basel-Stadt. Und es gelang uns, ein großes Publikum zu erreichen und wir können diese Ausstellung nochmal im 2022 präsentieren. Jetzt gehe ich näher auf diese zweite Ausstellung ein, nämlich dieses Leben und Arbeiten im Klein-Basel. Ich habe Ihnen gesagt, BelleVue liegt im Klein-Basel und es ist uns ein Anliegen, näher über diesen Stadtteil nachzudenken. Es ist nämlich unglaublich, was in diesem kleinen Raum, wie verschieden die Kulturen sind. Es sind 8 Quartiere. Wir haben die Pharma, die Roche, aber wir haben auch Gewerbe. Und mit dieser Fotoausstellung möchten wir in Verbindung von zeitgenössischer und historischer Fotografie, möchten wir diese Eigenheiten, diese Spezialitäten und diese Reichhaltigkeit von Leben und Kultur aufzeigen. Das machen wir, indem wir eben jetzt uns auf den Weg machen. Und das war ungefähr vor 2 Monaten, wo wir mit dem Prozess angefangen haben. Sie sehen also hier noch nicht die definitiven Bilder, sondern die Testbilder. Unsere Projektpartnerin, das Staatsarchiv Basel-Stadt, wird Fotografien zeigen, Prints von Glasplatten, wunderschöne Prints. Und ihr Anliegen ist es eben, näher hinzugehen, also mit dem historischen Blick die Fotografie aufzuzeigen. Was sind das für Leute? Welche Werkzeuge haben sie? Was für Schuhe tragen sie? Also da werden ganz viele Fragen gestellt und es geht nicht um das Vorher-Nachher, um das Früher-Heute, sondern um diese Verbindung zwischen zeitgenössischer und historischer Fotografie. 4 Fotografinnen und Fotografen haben wir eingeladen. Sie arbeiten in der Region und haben sich speziell für dieses Projekt auf den Weg gemacht, um ihre eigenen Projekte zu zeigen. Zum Beispiel Christian Jacki. Er wird sich auf die Grünflächen, auf die Freiräume fokussieren, die in Basel, im Klein-Basel, die es tatsächlich auch noch gibt, die aber auch bedroht sind. Und das Thema grüne Lunge ist ja heute sehr aktuell. Ursula Sprecher, Fotografin auch von Basel, hat sich zum Ziel gesetzt, mit Porträts die vielen Kulturen, die in Klein-Basel wohnen, zu zeigen, zu porträtieren. Und sie hat sich eine Methode zugelegt, um eben alle die Länder zu berücksichtigen, nämlich von A bis Z. Roland Schmid, Sie kennen ihn wahrscheinlich von den wunderbaren Reportagen. Er macht sich auf den Weg, um einerseits die Pharma, also die Großindustrie, aber auch das kleine Gewerbe zu fotografieren, was immer noch reichhaltig in Klein-Basel vorhanden ist. Maria Patschke, Fotografin in Ausbildung. Es ist uns auch immer ein Anliegen, Leute in Ausbildung zu fördern. Sie wird mit einem Tagebuch dabei sein, das sie jetzt angefangen hat, als sie in Basel unterwegs sein und fotografieren. Wir Ausstellungsmacherinnen, wir sind 5 Leute von BelleVue, die Historikerinnen und Historiker vom Staatsarchiv Basel-Stadt, 3 Personen und die 4 Fotografinnen, wir sind überzeugt, dass diese Gegenüberstellung von historischer und zeitgenössischer Fotografie in dieser Art, in diesem Prozess eben sehr spannend dargestellt werden kann. Und mit Past and Post hatten wir eine tolle Erfahrung und wir laden Sie natürlich selbstverständlich ein, am nächsten November auch in die Ausstellung zu kommen. Mit dem BelleVue Bulletin, das wir seit diesem Jahr neu herausgeben, sind Sie bestens informiert. Sie können sich über unser Programm informieren. Sie haben auch interne Informationen, aber wir stellen aber auch Fotografinnen und Fotografen vor, die Sie noch nicht kennen. Ich danke Ihnen sehr herzlich für die Aufmerksamkeit und wünsche Ihnen noch schöne Präsentationen. Es ist ja sehr interessant, was hier geboten wird. Vielen Dank.
Jörg Bader is the director of Centre de la Photographie in Geneva. He will present us Hallie Morris Caffiero, the wall watchers, and the bully pulpit. Jörg, are you ready to go?
Yes.
So please have a start.
OK. Bonjour, merci pour l'invitation. C'est toujours difficile de choisir une seule exposition vu qu'on a une programmation très riche. Par exemple, nous allons commencer le 12 janvier avec tous les livres de Richard Prince. Nous allons faire une sorte de rétrospective en mars-avril à travers ces livres de Claudio Moser. Et nous avons aussi Edgar Martins qui va apporter dans les mois de mai-juin un imaginaire carcéral bien différent de ce qu'on connaît en général. Mais je voudrais me concentrer aujourd'hui donc sur Hallie Morris Caffiero. Je l'ai rencontrée en 2017 dans les portfolios viewing à Arles, où elle avait d'ailleurs gagné le prix. Depuis, nous sommes en train de discuter. On a dû repousser malheureusement à plusieurs reprises, mais ça aura lieu en tous les cas le 18 août, ou sinon, à partir de octobre, notre programmation n'est pas encore complètement fixée. Donc, ce que vous voyez, c'est l'artiste elle-même. Elle est née en 1975 à Atlanta. Elle a fait des études à Tucson et elle enseigne aujourd'hui à l'université de Belfast. Elle s'est photographiée pendant 10 ans elle-même dans des scènes de rue, comme vous le voyez là. Et elle se met donc à la vue de tout le monde dans des poses parfois provocatives. Elle est malade de l'hypothyroïdisme. C'est une maladie où vous avez énormément de mal de perdre vos poids qui est en trop. Et elle s'était rendue compte une fois qu'elle avait été observée par des gens, elle a entendu des commentaires et c'est à ce moment-là où elle a pensé de mettre en place un dispositif pour capter le regard que les autres personnes portent sur elle. Je trouve ce travail d'une extrême actualité. Vous allez voir, il y a une deuxième série. Nous allons montrer les deux séries. De chaque série, autant de Bully Pulpit que The Watchers. Nous, on est en train de regarder The Watchers, ont été publiés par des éditeurs anglophones. Nous espérons d'avoir les deux séries en un seul livre, en collaboration avec Klaus Kehr. Ça, il faut encore voir pour le financement, mais en tous les cas, c'est notre vœu. Donc, elle est allée, là vous êtes par exemple à gauche à Barcelone, donc vous voyez bien qu'elle est allée aux quatre coins du monde, disons occidental, évidemment aussi là où il y a beaucoup de touristes. Et elle a pris le risque de se soumettre donc au rire, à la risibilité des passants dans l'espace public. Ce qui est aujourd'hui une évidence, c'est que la mauvaise nutrition, l'extrémité de sucre, etc., sont des énormes menaces, surtout pour le monde occidental. Et donc, nous voudrions, avec ces deux séries, pointer d'un côté les dangers sérieusement menaçants de l'hypothyroïdisme, mais de l'autre côté, d'entrer aussi dans une actualité qui résulte donc du deuxième pas que l'artiste a fait. Une fois qu'il avait réalisé les photos que vous venez voir de la première série de Watchers, et là, commencé à publier autant dans la presse que sur des réseaux sociaux. Et il y a eu une sorte de shitstorm qui s'est abattu sur elle avec une violence qu'on a du mal à s'imaginer. Et donc, là où je la trouve doublement courageuse, c'est qu'elle met encore une couche dessus et elle se photographie avec les textes qu'elle a reçus. Donc, vous voyez bien, les textes, ils sont intégrés de différentes manières, que ce soit imprimé sur un t-shirt, que ce soit sur un écran d'ordinateur. On trouve le texte insultant toujours quelque part dans le décor. En même temps, elle imite les personnes qui lui ont envoyé ces mots de haine. Et ainsi, c'est pas seulement, elle traite pas seulement le problème de l'hypothyroïdisme, mais aussi le problème des réseaux sociaux qui aujourd'hui sont des lieux principalement de haine et d'insultes et qui amènent à des situations comme le Brexit ou l'élection des présidents Bolsonaro et Trump. Donc, elle n'a jamais eu une exposition personnelle avec ces deux projets, encore moins montrée en Europe. Donc, nous sommes extrêmement fiers de pouvoir présenter ce travail qui me semble d'une extrême actualité et d'une excellente exécution artistique ici à Genève. À confirmer, pour l'instant, on a annoncé pour le 18 août, il se peut que ce soit mi-octobre. Nous allons évidemment communiquer la suite. Voilà, je vous remercie beaucoup et nous serons très heureux évidemment de vous accueillir à Genève au Centre de la Photographie.
The next project is a project that will run in the gallery of Christophe Guye. He will present in 2021 Stéphane Couturier. Christophe, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Super. Please go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I am pleased to present Stéphane Couturier. Who will have his second solo exhibition at the Gallery early next year. Stéphane Couturier currently lives and works in Paris. He began his career as a photographer in the early 1990s and has since made significant bodies of work. He does not create reportages, but uses his images as raw material, which he reworks and models on the computer. However, the artist does not make the landscape or the city abstract. On the contrary, Couturier transfigures it, reveals its soul, its past, its hidden face. The technical and visual protocols put into play obey a visual and deliberate conceptual orientation to divert the documentary aspect of photography and to shift and transcend its narrative dimension. This vast program of image subversion depends on the documentary approach, the precise shot. Whether on analog film or more recently digitally, each shot is recorded with a large format camera a key element of architectural photography that allows for flexibility in the depth of field and enables the inherent distortions of the subject matter to be corrected on the spot. Couturier rejects any artificial dramatization in these shots, such as blurring, backlighting, or diagonals, which would not only negate the reality effect, but dismiss over the fact that by its very nature, the shot is simply a two-dimensional extract of experienced reality, as well as an uncompromising visual. Once these fragments of reality have been isolated, Couturier reorchestrates them into an autonomous visual unit entirely woven from the real. The exhibition shows works from 3 different series: Alger, Set, and Les Nouveaux Constructeurs, which all have a certain shifting and interwoven quality that allows the eye to lose itself and wander. The photographic work of Stéphane Couturier combines a documentary approach with a complex treatment of the composition. On the one hand, he recomposes images by combining them in new ways. On the other hand, he superimposes 2 or more images and merges 2 layers of reality, which creates compositions that open up a new space-time. Stéphane Couturier thus questions the allegedly objective nature of the photographic medium. The image becomes a material. From this material, a machine to construct a combination of shapes which continuously updates the recorded reality is born. From one series to another, images, despite being seemingly underpinned by squared grid, are actually defined by interlacing. Our cognitive functions, however, have no problem coping with this. In fact, the interlacing mirrors the complexity of our perceptual jigsaw puzzle. Over the last 3 decades, the expression photographic tableau has become familiar. The notion that photography has taken over from the painting. In the case of Stéphane Couturier, it is always the interplay that wins out, the dynamic between reality and artificiality, representation and abstraction without ever refuting the ontological specificity of the medium of photography. In his latest series of work, Les Nouveaux Constructeurs, Couturier examines the work of Ferdinand Léger. When photographs of cityscapes and industrial architecture are now combined with the painter's compositions, the principle of superimposing 2 pictures which the photographer has developed into an essential element of his art in recent years is taken to a new level. The encounter of 2 different and yet closely related, because architectural structures, leads to work that are both picturesque photographs and photographic paintings. Constructively and constructed, these works depict the reality seen and yet go beyond the merely visible. Not images, but pictures that have their own reality. Thank you for your attention and have a continuously interesting afternoon.
Klaus Gunti, he is an art historian and a teacher at Ecole, will talk about automated photography, of which part of is actually giving the rhythm, the visual rhythm of this afternoon. Welcome, Klaus Gunti.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. So at Ecole, we are training the next generation of photographers, and we just like to imagine where photography could be going in the future while having a close look at what is going on now in the photographic field. We are particularly focusing on technological transformation and looking into their aesthetic or social implications. Research projects play an important role in this process. Some of you might know augmented photography. The project addressed new photographic forms and their emancipation from conservative conceptions, an approach which actually inspired the creation of the Master in Photography at Ecole in 2016. The augmented photography book, which is the outcome of the research project, has been sold out for quite some time now. But we are very happy to announce today that we made its digital version openly accessible. So if you'd like a copy, head to the Ecole shop where you can download the PDF version for free. In 2019, we launched a new research project, Automated Photography, with Milo Keller and Florian Amosa, whose results will be presented next spring. It stems from the premise that automation is a core process shaping contemporary photographic practices and visual culture more general. Computer vision, face recognition, photogrammetry, CGI. For the past decade, numerous photographers have been addressing images produced or analyzed autonomously by machines. The use of these technologies reflects a paradigm shift in the ways of conceiving photography. From photographic capture in the conventional sense, we have shifted to appropriative, generative, and computational practices, which are less and less built upon the equivalence between the human eye and reality, but which are situated in another conceptual framework. While it is essential to produce a tangible and factual understanding of this technical and aesthetic transformation, it is also necessary to contextualize the political and social changes induced by automation within a global visual culture. The project thus intertwines theoretical and practical perspectives. The research project is thus structured around 5 outlooks on automation: automated capture, images which are produced without cameras, image circulation and classification, the political implications of this transformation, and the automation of vision. Automated capture interrogates what are now often called operational images, created automatically or autonomously by machines such as drones, satellites, body cameras, or webcams. Often associated with surveillance and power structures, they redefine spatial or temporal relations between viewer and reality. Images without cameras reflect upon the increasing convergence between photographic technologies and 3D modeling. 3D scanning or image synthesis, for instance, redefine image-making processes while addressing key issues such as digital identities. Automation allows to generate images, but also plays a key role in the circulation of imagery within a global visual economy. Image analysis algorithms or computer vision increasingly control which images we see, while paradoxically, numerous image identification tasks are still done by humans. The use of these technologies, here an example addressing the Chinese surveillance apparatus, obviously raise numerous questions. Race or gender biases, digital colonialism or digital labor are often interconnected with visual economies and thus call for a critical investigation. Eventually, we aim to understand how these mechanisms affect both the viewer and the photographer. In this example, student Philip Clack highlights what a computer recognizes and what the human only is able to see, thus questioning the confrontation between human and non-human seeing systems. To address these issues, we have the pleasure to announce you today the list of scholars and practitioners contributing essays for the project, from fields such as diverse as media theory, philosophy, art history, or political science, but also with contributions from artists or curators. Additionally to the various workshops held during the research, we are also conducting a series of interviews with collaborating artists, with Nora Al-Badri, Ellen Warburton, Fabian Soufi, Jules Spinach, Morrishin Alayari, just to name a few. In this context, we're also building a database of relevant artistic practices addressing automation in photography, which will be accessible on the project's website. So thanks a lot for sharing the call if you know of any relevant artist who would fit in. In mid-April 2021, we are, hopefully, if the situation gets better, going to open an exhibition here at the Ecole, which features works as much by students of the program than by the artists collaborating with the research project. At the same time, contributors will gather during a one-day symposium at Ecole, which will be the opportunity to share findings and discuss new artistic forms, like here, for example, this video game created by a student about Disney princesses and gender representations. At the symposium, we will also launch the book Automated Photography, which is structured around the 5 mentioned outlooks on automation. We aim to give a transversal perspective, addressing as much relevant artistic positions than theoretical perspectives, which try to understand the role of automation and computation in photography. And for those of you who would like to stay up to date on our process, please check out our website, where content will be added on a regular basis, and consider subscribing to our newsletter. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Gloria Wismer, she is responsible for communication at Edition Patrick Frey, is presenting a new book of this fantastic publisher. Gloria, can you start?
Yes. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Urs, for the introduction and the invitation. So we are working on a book about Patheo, an African fashion icon in every sense of the word. He might not be very famous here in Europe, but he's something like the Coco Chanel of West Africa. The designer, whose real name is Pate Ouedraogo, is among the first generation of African designers who made this very clear statement. There are African designers fighting to make Africans understand that Africa also has its own fashion and identity. I started in 1969. I'm from Burkina Faso. I'm of Ivorian adoption, so I am an African. Known for his collections far beyond West Africa, the visionary legacy of Patheo has been influencing the aesthetic standards and experience of fashion on the African continent for over 30 years. His distinct design aesthetics and cutting-edge approach to sustainability, alongside a gift for combining cultural commitment with entrepreneurial creativity, have inspired designers of all ages. For long, it was common for high-ranking politicians and showbiz celebrities in West African former French colonies to dress in a Western manner. In this context, Patheo approached his work with the clear intention to raise appreciation amongst Africans for a local fashion style and industry. In the 80s, Patheo became friends with Thomas Sankara, a proponent of Pan-Africanism, who was installed as president of Upper Volta, later Burkina Faso, in 1983, and who was assassinated in 1987. Sankara was dedicated to redistributing the wealth from the elite to the poor. He pressured Western countries to pay a fairer price for his country's cotton and raised the pressure by stalling its export. Instead, he invested heavily in the local production of faso-danfani, a fabric woven from local cotton. Sankara insisted that all public servants dressed in faso-danfani. Patheo was heavily influenced by Sankara's decisiveness to promote local pride and cultural heritage. From this point on, he solely relied on using locally produced fabrics from West Africa. His creations became a contemporary tribute to cultural heritage, history, and identity. A further prominent encounter Patteo experienced was with Nelson Mandela. Mandela was the first African president to choose Patteo's vibrant designs and light cotton fabrics over the dark three-piece suit worn in London, Paris, or Milan. And he was soon to be followed by other heads of states, as well as stars of the showbiz and sports, and of course, Madame et Monsieur tout le monde. Patteo's fabrics are his trademark, and he has a lifelong experience of fusing global fashion trends with a wide range of African textiles and knowledge, hence keeping the local heritage alive and ever evolving. The dyers collectives in Abidjan Patteo collaborates with are women of Mauritanian origin, who have learned the traditional techniques from their ancestors. According to Patteo's wishes, they skillfully transform the white cotton fabric into radiant color tableau. In his studio, which has been located since 40 years in the same premises in the lively Treichville district of Abidjan, the fabrics are processed into garments. To avoid copycats, Patteo adds a unique detail to each garment, such as a different color piping to mark it as an original and one of a kind. For the first time, this book traces the extraordinary journey of Patteo and his brand. The craftsmanship and treasures of his creations provide a better understanding of the spectrum of fashion in West Africa, the mergers of a global present with a rich cultural heritage. The book explores topics ranging from the fashion and textile industry to labor migration, politics, and showbiz, and spans an arc from the past to the present. The golden thread through the book and these mentioned topics is an extensive interview with Patteo held by Swiss journalist Catherine Moron, who shares her time between Switzerland and Côte d'Ivoire. This interview is complemented with a text about the young generation of Ivorian designers by fashion mentor and editor Chaye Chena, articles about the different local fabrics, their history and production processes by professors and African textile specialists Victoria Roween and Geneviève Hall, and the text by French anthropologist Anne Grossfilly, amongst others. The content and visual concept of the book is developed by the Zurich-based design practice Hammer, founded by Sarina Rothenberger and David Schatz, together with the photographer Florina Rothenberger. Both Sarina and Florina grew up in Côte d'Ivoire and have kept close ties to the country. The book is photographed by Florina Rothenberger and the Ivorians Kader Chabi and Nui Balnière. Over a period of several months, they visually documented and commented on the versatile craft, the production facilities, the Patteo archive and collections. The book also contains extensive material from historical image archives, which were digitalized for the publication and are thus being shown in this form for the first time. A large part of this material was provided by Ben Sougrana Idris, a celebrated photographer from Burkina Faso and a longtime friend of Patteo. The book will be published by Edition Patrick Frey in early fall of 2021, both in an English and French edition. And since fabrics are such a specialty of Patteo and so important for his work, the books will be bound in cloth, which was designed and dyed by him especially for us and this book. When asked about the role the work of couturiers in Africa take on to inspire fashion on a global scale, Patteo replied, "It's better late than never. We have so much talent in Africa. We have untapped materials, but it all still remains local, which is why fashion is seen as coming from the West." So this book seeks to pay a tribute to fashion as coming from Africa. Thank you very much for your attention and stay tuned for our publication about this legend.
Alessa Wittmer will talk about an elderly Swiss photographer, Roger Humbert, who has done over decades very interesting and intriguing concrete photography. So I'm looking forward to what you're going to present, Alessa. Thank you very much. Have a start.
Thanks. Well, hi everyone. I'm Alessa. I'm presenting today the upcoming exhibition for Fabian and Claude Walter Gallery in Zurich. Nearly 2 years ago, in the summer of 2019, we showed a solo exhibition with the Basel-based photographer Roger Humbert. The title of the exhibition was Concrete Photography, Photograms from 1950 to 1970. And like the title suggests, we were exhibiting vintage photograms by Humbert. Our upcoming exhibition is thematically based on that one and will be the second, more extensive part that will deal in depth with the work of the Swiss pioneer of concrete photography. However, the exhibition will go beyond the black and white photograms we have seen so far and will dive into the topic of concrete photography in color. The exhibition will thus provide a broad spectrum of the artistic and technical development and work of Roger Humbert. This second exhibition, with the working title Concrete Photography Part 2, is scheduled for summer 2021. In the beginning, I would like to give a short overview of Roger Humbert and concrete photography itself, since it is quite a special field of photography. Humbert was born in 1929 in Basel and is, like already mentioned, one of the Swiss pioneers of concrete photography. He has produced an extensive body of work since the 1950s and still does today. Therefore, the photographs in our upcoming exhibition will be a mixture of vintage photograms as well as modern prints that are partly made digitally. Humbert himself describes his concrete photography with the short but not less complex sentence, "I photograph the light." Concrete photography is therefore detached from iconography and symbolism and strives for a pure photography that only deals with itself. Humbert realizes this, like in the photograms shown in the slides, by using foreign elements such as stencils, grids, and punch cards. Based on the theories of Alvin Langdon Coburn, which were developed around 1916 in the environment of the English Vorticism, the mysterious quality of light is at the center of concrete photography. You might know further stations in the history of development, such as the well-known Stadiographien by Christian Schad, the rayographs by Man Ray, as well as the photograms, luminograms, and photomontages of the 1920s by L'Age Le Moulinage. Roger Humbert, who worked during the day as a trained photographer and graphic designer, began to create photograms in the darkroom in the mid-50s. Those works contrasted with the advertising photography with which he earned his living during the day. So Humbert and his photographic contemporaries were searching for a new modern and experimental visual language. They denied the image, detached themselves from the object, and understood light as a decisive image-generating element. The art historian Bernd Stiegler even compares Humbert's work with that of a natural scientist. In the laboratory, or in this case, the darkroom or photo studio, Humbert undertakes scientific experiments with photography. He tries to find out what it means when you photograph light and how you can do this at all. With our upcoming exhibition, we would like to investigate this in more detail. In addition to the black and white photograms that we've seen in the past few slides, our exhibition will present further photographs by Roger Humbert. These images were taken using different techniques, and it might take a few seconds till they're on the slide. And that is the eye-catching point, they are in color. Some of these colored photographs were just taken just a few years back, and artists are from quite early phase of his oeuvre. So, for example, the images shown now. While working with Humbert, we discovered the diapositives of these colored photographs. They were taken approximately in the 1960s. Humbert made his first approach with concrete color photography with these images. He actually exhibited them in the late 60s or maybe early 70s in Bern, alongside with the fellow concrete photographers René Mechler, Rolf Schröter, and Friedrich Knieger. However, within the last 50 years, these images haven't been exhibited a lot. In contrast to the photograms that we have seen earlier that were taken without a camera, these photographs are not photograms and were taken with a Hasselblad camera. So how did he create these photographs? Humbert placed plexiglass elements on a glass plate and let colored light shine onto the plates from below, and then photographed it. In combination with stencils, he created the photographs that you can see here. We're still in process with working with these images and are excited to see what comes next. Now, we are making a little jump in time and are talking about some younger works by Humbert. That will be on in probably a few seconds. Those photographs were taken digitally, that we can see now, in 2015, and therefore also with a camera. Humbert worked with different colored filters to create the colors and the color gradients in this image. A selection of these colored photographs have been exhibited at BelleVue Photographie in Basel this autumn, and we're really looking forward to showing them in our gallery next year as well. Humbert describes this photography as a study with light and color for the next chapter of his concrete photography, the spectral photographs. Like his previous colored images, these photographs from 2015 were digitally taken. However, the process of taking spectral photographs is quite complex. So a beam of white light passes through a convex lens, geometric transparent objects, and a prism. During this action, the light gets deflected from its path and at the same time breaks down in the colors visible to us. Roger Humbert explained to me that since the Earth rotates, he only has about 45 seconds to take the photograph. After this amount of time, the beam of light is not on the prism anymore and everything has to be rearranged. So all in all, the aim of the exhibition is to present the history of development of concrete photography on the basis of Roger Humbert's work, from vintage photograms to the contemporary spectral images. Thank you.
Stefano Stoll is our lovely self-performing festival director. He runs immagine, and he's talking now about his festival. Stefano, are you ready?
Ready.
Super.
Here we go. Buongiorno e benvenuti in Italia. Please let me introduce you to a new project immagine is developing together with Ghibellina Photo Road Festival in Sicily. It's a new biennial that will happen in the city of Ghibellina every second year, alternating with immagine Festival. The city of Ghibellina, located 30 minutes south of Palermo, has been totally destroyed by an earthquake in 1968. What remains today on these grounds is a gigantic 80,000 square meters land art piece by Italian artist Alberto Burri. He covered all the ruins of the destroyed city with concrete, respecting the footprint of old Ghibellina's streets. Under the concrete, Alberto Burri has compacted all rubble of the destroyed city. So you can nowadays walk around this memorial, experiencing the city original grid and experiencing art in its most unexpected form. And when the mayor decides to rebuild a new city from the scratch, 20 kilometers south, he calls the most avant-garde artists and architects. The result is breathtaking as utopian. Here you see the main entrance gate of Ghibellina Nuova, a gigantic sculpture shaped like a star with the cars passing under it by Pietro Consagra. The theater of Ghibellina is probably one of the most iconic buildings of all, but it's absolutely unfinished like the rest of the whole city is. If you look carefully, you see it's totally empty inside, which obviously is pretty problematic, but very interesting for a biennial of visual arts looking for unexpected venues. Here we see the main church of Ghibellina with its gigantic sphere of 20 meters diameter. It's also unfinished, but it gives a perfect idea on how utopian this dream in progress has been. You see on this map now that the master plan of the city is based on one main avenue in the center that divides the city into two parts, both made of hundreds of pavilions built to welcome 20,000 citizens. But today, only 2,000 people live there and there is almost no economic activity. So the city feels totally empty. And like you can see on this main square, the city looks pretty much like a Giorgio de Chirico painting. So again, it's a very strange feeling and a fantastic place to produce site-specific art installations. Actually, the city is already an open-air museum with more than 50 gigantic permanent sculptures made by artists such as Mimo Palladino here on the screen, Richard Long, Daniel Spöri, Mimmo Rotella, and contribution by Joseph Beuys, Joseph Kossuth, Alighiero Boetti, and many, many more. So now you understand how appealing this unique city is for a biennale like immagine. We started the partnership in summer 2019, doing 35 site-specific projects with international artists such as Joan Foncuberta. You see here his installation with his famous series Sputnik that we adapted for Gibellina. And actually with the support of Pro Helvetia, we could export last summer a lot of Swiss artists. You see here an installation we made site-specifically with Olivier Lovet, but we also had a show with Christian Lutz, for example, in another venue. And we also had Manon Vertenbroek with this outdoor site-specific installation. We had Nicola Polli with a huge mapping video performance on the sphere of the church that you see here on the picture. Actually, both ECAL alumni, by the way. And we also produced a performance with Honorato and Krebs, and they have built a replica of the theater. You see in the back, mounted on a car, and they drove around in the empty city, playing very loud Italian music. They had 2 cameras and shot the whole performance. So 1 year later, we could show the results on that site of that site-specific performance in a video installation at immagine, which was a way to introduce to our local audience this new biennial project. This collaboration is an opportunity to draw attention to the city of Gibellina, but also to share know-how, exchange artists, and test new setups. On this slide, it is a site-specific project by Italian collective Kublai Clan, conceived in 2019 for Gibellina, and then totally redesigned 1 year later to fit a playground in Vevey during our last edition of Image Vevey in September. So with Arianna Catania, the director of Gibellina Photo Road Festival, which is probably online with us, we launched our long-term collaboration in Milano at the Centre Culturel Suisse in spring 2019. Open air, site-specific, contemporary artists. These are some of the characteristics we share and we can develop together, exchanging projects. Exchanging projects such as this site-specific show we did with Stephen Gill during the last Festival Image Vevey, conceived really for Vevey, but that we will now find a way to adapt for a field in Gibellina in the next summer 2021. As you know, Sicily attracts 15 million tourists a year. So let's hope that some will leave the seashores to discover and experience this amazing utopian city turned into one of the world's largest open-air museum. So you're all welcome to join next summer. Thank you for your attention, and viva la mamma.
Thank you very much, Stefano. The first 10 presentations have gone. Now we have a break of 15 minutes. We rejoin at 3:45 for the second half, for the second 10. So have a good drink, a good breathe, and then come back. Thank you very much. It is Nadine Wietisbach from Fotomuseum Winterthur, the director of Fotomuseum Winterthur. I might have heard this institution before, who will talk about Eva and Franco Mattes. Nadine, are you here? Ready to go?
Yes, I am.
Super. Thank you.
Yes, welcome. I like to talk a little bit, give a little insight into an exhibition we are working currently on. It's a solo exhibition by artists Eva and Franco Mattes. It's an exhibition which is very much tied to a lot of other projects we did. It's artists we've worked before. It's at an important stage in their career, and it's also going to be the first institutional museum exhibition in Europe. Eva and Franco Mattes, they're both born 1976, are based in New York. They were born in Italy. And since the mid-1990s, they have been questioning the ethics and politics of our daily lives that increasingly take place online. Their artworks, which cover the evolution of networked and screen-based practices over a period that now spans more than 2 decades, reveal a profound transformation of photographic culture in an age of global digital networks. What you can see now is the ceiling cat, and that's a sculptural recreation of an old internet meme, a taxidermy cat peeking through a hole in the ceiling, always watching. It's a bit cute, but also scary at the same time, and some see it as the symbol of the internet itself. It's a global surveillance system in an appealing fuzzy wrap. The sculpture is based on an image that Mattes found online that had circulated virally and generated endless variations, becoming a meme. By everyone, for no one, every day. The artist hired workers through crowdsourcing services and provided them with detailed instructions for webcam performances. Different workers interpret the same performance with slight variations. In accordance with the crowdsourcing platform's rules, the workers paid to execute the performances do not know who the commissioner is, like the artist in this case, nor the purpose of these videos, nor their final destination. The artist dispersed the resulting videos on obscure peripheral or forgotten social networks around the world, in Cambodia, China, Pakistan, and Brazil. The videos, some of them have very few views, if some at all. Abuse standard violations. You all know how it feels to try and post something on the internet, which is going to be removed. This is all due to sort of like a paper or like a framework where it's about violating standards in what we are able to see or not see. This can be especially weird when we post pictures who are not very controversial to us. Personal photographs is actually a sculpture which is going to run through the entire space. And it's a site-specific work. It's a network of cable trays that winds around and throughout the site. And all the photos the artist shot in a given month, for example, September 2009 to January, are in constant circulation via those cables that link to microcomputers. So these images perpetually exist without viewers, like most images nowadays. So they sort of enhance this idea of images circulating, which we do not have necessarily always access to. Emily's video is inspired by reactions it's like the artist invited volunteers who replied to an open call, and they were shown horrific images. And it's a 15-minute video compilation of their reactions to apparently horrible, mysterious footage, sacred source from the darknet. Hannah Uncut is a commission from Fotomuseum Winterthur, and it's a video slideshow featuring all the photos found on a used phone. So through an online open call, the artists found one person, Hannah, who sold them her phone, knowing that all photos and videos contained therein would become public. The photos are kept in chronological order without any editing, filter, or judgment, but the artists have manually changed the duration of every slide to emulate the pace in which we swipe through our phones, although the differences are very subtle, almost imperceptible. The Bots is a series of video installation based on interviews with internet content moderators. And those interviews were conducted in collaboration with a journalist, Adrian Chen, during a year-long investigation. Actors reenacted the interviews from home, filming themselves using their smartphones. Maybe one quote from one of those content moderators. In the past, before I had the job, I knew that content moderation existed, but I thought it was done by a computer, not by real people. In fact, when working, we see that people think we are robots. And there is a very serious discourse underlying, because it's addressing topics such as violence, sexual abuse, hate speech, and terrorism, but it's constantly interrupted by makeup tips. So it's also this hybrid of two practices which are circulating and also part of our visual culture. Portrait is an older work. It was created between 2006 and 2007. And it's all about their investigation in the construction of identity, in this case over portraits of avatars inside the video game Second Life. They are printed on large format canvases. In this sense, the Matisse works are in fact photos of self-portraits. The imaginary audience refers to a state where an individual imagines and believes that multitudes of people are enthusiastically listening or watching them. So this is where the title is from, inspired by David Elking. We are very happy to welcome you in January for the opening of the exhibition. And yeah, please stay tuned also for the publication, which is published together with Spectre Books.
Thank you, Nadine. I certainly will come to the opening to see that. Across the street of Fotomuseum Winterthur is Fotostiftung Schweiz. And Theresa Gruber is working on a Swiss photographer, which is nearly a bit forgotten, Ernst R. Heiniger. I'm really looking forward to see an exhibition of this photographer, Theresa. Tell us what you do.
Let's go. 2021, Fotostiftung Schweiz will celebrate its 50th anniversary with 3 exhibitions which reflect central aspects of our engagement. We will honor the work of the photojournalist Pia Zanetti, present the first comprehensive show investigating Swiss photography from the 19th century, and we will answer the question, who was Ernst Albrecht Heiniger? He was retoucher, photographer, filmmaker. He loved horses and mountains and technical challenges. He left notes for his biography, numerous self-staging portraits, but most of all, he left an oeuvre deserving a place in the Swiss history of photography. What you see here are glimpses into the layout of the exhibition catalog published by Scheidegger and Spies. Heiniger's career as a photographer was influenced by the avant-garde of the 1920s. He traveled to the Soviet Union and became an advocate of the new photography in Switzerland. A combination of experimental perspectives promoted as Neues Sehen by the followers of Bauhaus and the so-called new objectivity. Here you see Heiniger's view down from his studio onto the Bahnhofstrasse, Zürich. Heiniger established his reputation as an advertising photographer, always striving for the best technical implementations, but also for convincing concepts. One of Heiniger's most loyal clients was Pro Telefon. PTT, the precursor of the Swiss Post and Swisscom, had launched a campaign promoting the use of the telephone all across the country. For the graphic design, Heiniger was collaborating with Heinrich Steiner, with whom he conducted an atelier for graphics and photography from 1934 to 1939. But Heiniger also became active as a graphic designer himself. The poster on the right is from the 1950s. The Swiss still didn't know how to speak correctly into the receiver. Heiniger also worked on assignment for industrial firms like Rüegg AG, which was producing connection elements. He provided photographs of compressing springs and spirals and placed them into an accurate layout. What you see next. As you see, Heiniger's estate, which was luckily transferred from Texas to Winterthur in 2014, holds diverse material. Katharina Ripstein, who is going to curate the show, has cataloged basically everything and digitized large parts of it. Important for the reception of Heiniger as a photographer are the photo books he published. The first one was Pusterpferde in 1936. The first edition was sold out before Christmas and harvested enthusiastic reviews. Heiniger had followed his passion for horses into the Hungarian Puszta. Despite the harmless subject, the design of the book is striking. Heiniger arranged the photographs in a playful manner, combining all kinds of formats and evoking cinematic effects. The photo book Viertausender and Tessin were published in 1941 and 1942. While the world around was at war, there could be observed a concentration on Swiss topics in Swiss photography as part of the Geistige Landesverteidigung. Keeping to his distanced and sober way of illustration, Heiniger avoided to become too romantical or glorifying. The photograph of the mountaineers at the Biancograd appears modern in the use of forms and black and white contrast. In 1952, Heiniger played an active role on the stage of the World Exhibition of Photography in Lucerne. He won the contest for the best poster design and contributed as curator for the Department of Product Photography, showing also some of his own masterpieces. On the occasion of the World Exhibition, Heiniger went through his personal archive and chose 52 photographs to represent his work in a thin but nonetheless self-confident booklet with the title Das Jahr des Fotografen, the year of the photographer. The English edition was named Masterpieces of Photography. He combined photographs which he had produced on assignments with independent works, often juxtaposing diverse subject areas, bringing together formal correspondences, but also using rather sentimental captions. It was during the World Exhibition in Lucerne that Heiniger met Walt Disney. Disney was looking for a cameraman for Switzerland film. On the set of this highly stereotyped short documentary, Heiniger met his future wife, Jean Feaster, who traveled with him, worked with him, and posed with him. The Switzerland film was part of a series, People and Places, screened preceding the animation films of Walt Disney. Two of his other documentary short films received Academy Awards: Ama Girls, about Japanese women diving for seagrass, and Grand Canyon, the cinematic illustration of a music piece. In 1962, the SBB, Swiss Federal Railways, commissioned Heiniger to produce a promotion film in 360 angular degree. The Chircarama camera included 9 cameras in a circle. It was mounted on cars, helicopters, mountain cableway ships, and ships. It even traveled to Pisa. 4 million spectators have seen Heiniger's Chircarama film Rund Rad und Schiene at Expo 64. Heiniger aimed as a mass audience, but most of all, he was an innovative designer of photographs. I hope this made you curious to see more. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Teresa. And now we will hear and watch Marco Grob, the well-known Swiss-American portrait photographer, talking about his new job as a director, as an artistic director of the International Photo Festival Olten. Hi, Marco, welcome.
Hello, everyone. You can hear me? Well, I hope this is not my regular job, but I'm glad that we have the opportunity to present our festival to you all. The IPFO International Photo Festival in Alton was founded in 2017 out of actually sheer love and passion for photography. And we wanted to kind of present photography from now and yesterday and today and tomorrow, hopefully, to a wider audience. IPFO stands now as the festival itself. We were lucky enough to get a house of photography, and we founded last year the Media School, which is giving for workshops and master classes and seminars throughout the year and on the festival. On the next festival, we have guest speakers already signed up. It's like James Nachtwey, Carol Gozzi, Nick Knight, possibly, we're still negotiating, and the Gao brothers and many more. But those are the people actually to talk on our main stage. Our open air, on our open air stage. And in contrary to the last couple of years, we decided to actually go this year much more, or the next year in 2021. We want to go much more open air. And so we are actually very happy that we can have an open air audience. As well, we do exhibitions in-house. Nick Knight, again, we're planning on that as we speak. And then a spacewalk experience from Time Magazine, which is a very extraordinary event. Time Magazine produced a piece on the International Space Station. Our outdoor exhibitions, as I said, this is a new thing for us, contains a whole variety of different artists, of men and women from all over the world. As part of the next outdoor exhibition series, we will feature Shahidul Alam with his exhibition Truth to Power, which he originally in Bangladesh showed on rickshaws because the police always raided galleries, and he took them out on the street, and we will do so as well with Shalom's work on rickshaws going throughout the city. Again, we partner up with World Press Photo, which will have this year or next year as well an open air exhibition in the midst next to the festival square. And this is the second time we partner with World Press Photo, and we're very happy about that. They show a lot of the things from the last year's winner, but also new photography all over the world. Another highlight this next festival is going to be a show from Vanity Fair, our Hollywood calling show. Again, an outdoor show with work containing people like Annie Leibovitz and Albert Watson and so on. Another show, one of those highlights from China, the Gao brothers, showing their very socially involved work. The Gao brothers were getting in trouble in China quite many times over the last couple of years, so we were really happy to have them. And as a new thing, we show with PhotoWheel 4600 an exhibition which contains Swiss photography, strictly Swiss photography, in an open air show as well, which highlights people from all walks. The people, we make an open call. And then we make also a by appointment only selection with hopefully many photographers, interesting photographers. And we hope maybe we get suggestions by the board of Spectrum, and we would be very happy to hear if you have any suggestions. In the past, we had the good luck to have quite many very knowledgeable and very great photographers in Alton, Harry Benson, Lindsay Adario, people from magazines like Susan Light, and so forth. The all year round media school that we founded, the IPFO campus, contains photography, film, video, visual storytelling, sound, post-production, film, photo editing, Instagram, and portfolio reviews. And while the festival, this is all year round, while the festival, we have 60 seminars. In our masterclass, for example, we try to go as close to reality as possible. For example, the students' work will be submitted to Time magazine, and then they get judged by the photo board of Time magazine, and we select a winner. So it's as close as possible to reality. The new thing also, we have 2 awards. One is the IPFO Award for Excellence, and the other one is the Prix Photo Suisse, which we give through a jury which contains people from Stern, Vanity Fair, Variety, Geo, National Geographic, and Time magazine, as well as a lot of very worldwide known photographers. So we have a very good jury, and we hope with that to have some prestige for the award as well. So we're looking forward for that as well. New is also our IPFO House of Photography. This was a gift, not a gift per se, but we can use it from the city of Olten without pay, let's say that way. And we were very, very happy to actually start a show in spring 2021. And we open with the photographic work of David Lynch, which we're very excited about. David has of course, he's well known as a director, but he has a very vast photography body of work. And we're very happy to make an exciting show with curated by the very talented Natalie Herzberg. So who should be here as well. And the outlook on 2021 and 22 is actually Steve McCurry and Herb Ritz in the very early part of the year. And we're still planning, again, it's a love and passion and project, and we kind of take it step by step. And I wish you all a good afternoon. Thank you very much, and stay safe, everyone, and healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
There is a beautiful museum called Masi in Lugano, in the Italian part of Switzerland. And Ludovica Introini and Laura Pomari worked there on an exhibition by James Barner, and they will talk about this now. Are you ready, both?
Yes, we are.
Thank you very much for coming and for joining us. Please start now.
Thank you for the invitation, and hello, everybody. My name is Laura Pomari, and I'm here with my colleague Ludovica Introini to introduce one of the pioneers of African photography from the last century, the Ghanaian artist James Barner, whose work spanning over 6 decades, 2 continents, and many genres, was rediscovered only in the early 2000s and was further heightened in 2010 with his first major retrospective in London. After a series of exhibitions in the United States and Africa, Masi Lugano will host a new major retrospective next autumn 2021, traveling directly from the Serpentine Galleries, London. In 1949, after his apprenticeship, when Ghana was still the Gold Coast colony, James Barner opened the ever-young portrait studio in Accra. At the time, visiting the photographer's studio was a ritual occasion, made to capture life-changing moments, such as weddings and graduations, or people entering the urban professions, like nursing or policing. Barner's portraits capture a nation gearing up for modernity and independence on the cusp of self-determination. The studio was named after a piece of English comprehension that Barner had studied as a boy, which described a princess who stayed young by eating magic apples. The name of the studio, Barner says, also alluded to his retouching techniques. The studio was also crucial as community center. Day and night, there was always music. Everything happening in Accra was passing through his small street. At the same time as working in the studio, where Barner used the cumbersome full-plate camera, which took 1 shot at a time on a fragile glass plate, he also had a small roll film camera, with which he became the first photographer employed by the Daily Graphic newspaper in Accra, when it was set up in the 1950s. That made him Ghana's first full-time newspaper photographer. He covered everything, from local news to sports to politics, often working without assignment and leading his own story. Barner's keen eye for a good story led him to document Ghana at a time of incredible transformation, and his images show a country coming to terms with the modern world. He was a well-known photojournalist who documented Ghana's campaign for independence during the 50s. And it was during this period that he had Ghana's founding father, Kwame Nkrumah, firmly fixed in his sights, helped by the fact that he had his campaign meetings on a patch in front of Barnard's studio. Barnard photographed several key political figures until covering Ghana's independence from the UK in 1957, the first African country to reach this historical goal. As a body of work, the photographs of the 1950s suggest the optimism and hope of people hurrying along on the road to independence. He moved to London in 1959 and found a country at the dawn of another kind of revolution. Across Britain, the grey post-war years were succeeded by a youth-driven counterculture with mind expansion and nonconformity at its center. The capital was a burgeoning multicultural city. And during his 10 years in London, Barnard studied photography, worked as a technician in photo labs, and learned the art of color photography in Kent. But it wasn't easy at the time for a Black person to do photography, usually destined to work in the darkroom, backstage, and without facing a client. He developed his distinctive style at the crossroads between fashion and street photography. Thanks to the previous collaboration with Drum Ghana, and his close relationship with Jim Bailey, founder and owner of Drum, Barnard obtained numerous assignments for Drum England magazine as a freelance. Drum was South Africa's influential anti-apartheid journal for politics and the first Black lifestyle publication, most notable for his coverage of life under apartheid in the 1950s and 1960s. Barnard took several photographs to help chart an emerging Africa. When in London, he was the first to put Black British models on its covers, dressed in Western 60s fashions, in typical London settings, and photographed people like Muhammad Ali. He presented editorials of progressive Africans, expatriated or born in Britain, evoking the trends and spirits of life in the 1960s London, producing iconic pictures of the confluence of cultural differences. Educating others has always been a central part of Barnard's life, and he was determined to bring his learning from London back home. On returning to Accra, where he lived for 24 years, Barnard opened the first color processing laboratory in Ghana, working as a representative for Agfa Gewert, and was one of the first photographers to shoot Ghana in color. He operated his second studio, Studio X23, and worked for a handful of state agencies in Accra. His talent continued to shine through just as strongly as in color and in black and white, and he produced a vivid record of the country's post-independence atmosphere of the 1970s and beyond. He returned to London in the 90s, but he found that much was changed. Barnard struggled to make a living working also as a cleaner in schools until his work was rediscovered. Nowadays, we can say that Barnard's archive is in safe hands. Collated by the non-profit agency Autograph ABP, during a 4-year project, it has become part of the new Archive and Research Center for Culturally Diverse Photography. Now retired, Barnard devotes most of his time to the ongoing digitalization and exhibition of his archive, and he boasts a following on Instagram. It has taken a lifetime, but he's proud that his art is finally reaching a wider audience. Although he says he wasn't consciously attempting to do it, the multifaceted nature of Barnard's output in his thousands of negatives captures cultures in transformation, new identities coming into being in post-war, pre- and post-colonial contexts, both in UK and Ghana, brilliantly illustrating the fragmented experience of migration and modernity, changing representation of Blackness, desire, and beauty across time and culture. His image is recognizable for lightness of touch and a sense of glamour, are an invaluable treasure. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you next autumn in Lugano.
Thank you very much for this, Ludovica. Sounds like I have to go and to see this exhibition. Now, we all know that the Musée de l'Élysée will get a beautiful new building, but that also means that the museum is closed for 2 years. But Sophie Felloni will now tell us that a museum that is closed doesn't have to be closed. Can you start, Sophie? Welcome.
Hi.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Super.
So hi,
Go.
everyone. Yeah. I would like to present the new project of mediation culturelle of the Musée de l'Élysée at Lausanne. So as you said, the Musée de l'Élysée is currently closed to prepare its move to Platform 10, the new art district in Lausanne. And the reopening is planned on June 22, but during the closing, the Musée de l'Élysée will be on the road with its Photomobile to meet schools and specialized institutions to propose workshops. And the tour will run from November this year to December 21. In a nutshell, this project aims at different objectives: to meet the public during the closing of the museum, then to make photography accessible to everyone. If you are not going to the museum will come to you, and then to sensitize to the museum's collection and to the photographic practice. And we will use the beautiful vehicle you can see at the bottom of the slide, which contains all the workshop kits. Good formula during a pandemic, by the way. There are 3 different educational workshops related to photography and linked to the museum's collections. These workshops are free. You only have to register on the website we specially created for the project. And the workshops take place twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and last about 90 minutes each. And of course, 2 cultural mediators of the museums will lead the workshops. The Photomobile Élysée will run all over the state of Vaud for 2 different publics: school audiences and specific audiences. Concerning schools, we will go to primary and secondary schools in the state of Vaud. And by specific audiences, we mean social medical institutions, community centers, hospitals, and so on. And all the workshops can be adapted to everyone, for different public, for different ages, and for different places. So we hope to bring together around 3,500 participants. The first workshop, called Hors cadre, out of frame, is a manual activity. It's planned for children starting at 4 years old, but can be adapted to everyone. It's basically based on the observation of photographs from the museum's collection, and the workshop is in 2 parts. The first part consists in learning how to read and analyze images, and the second part consists in drawing the off-screen of photographs from the collection. And at the end of the workshop, the participants go home with their creation. The second workshop, called Lumière et Trichromie, Light and Trichromy, is a scientific manipulation. It's for children starting at 8 years old, but can also be adapted. And the participant will discover the first experiences of color photography. The workshop is also in 2 parts. The first one, the theoretical one, the participants will study the process of additive synthesis with various visuals. And the second part, practical one, they will use old-fashioned methods with 3 colors filters. And they can also go on with their creation, with their picture. The third workshop, called Mes identités numériques, My digital identities, is the result of a collaboration with the Fotomuseum Winterthur. They have created this workshop within their project From Print to Pixel. And this one is more a debate on the role of photography on the internet. It's for teenagers starting from 12 years old, but also can be adapted. And the participants are invited to think about their own image on internet, but also on images that are shared on social networks. On this slide, you can see some numbers. The tour started on 1 month ago, and it's already full until May 21, lucky us. Until now, we have 85 workshops booked. Majority is school classes, but we also are going to medical institutions, community centers, and university hospital, as I said earlier. And about 1,500 participants are already registered. And we will cover more than 800 kilometers, which is the equivalent of Lausanne, Bretagne in France, to give you an idea. Some more statistics here. On this slide, you see 3 graphs showing the success of the different workshops, the age groups corresponding to the workshops, and finally the places that the Photomuseum will visit. It's interesting to see that the most successful workshop is the scientific one, Lumière et Trichromie, where the participants are invited to manipulate cameras. It's also interesting to notice that 44% of the participants are in the 8 to 12 years old range, which reflects as well the range we receive the most in the institution. And finally, you will find here the link to her website with useful information. I hope you like the project as we do, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sophie. The museum in Bellepark, in the Bellepark in Kriens, next to Lucerne, is a very small museum in a nice park, but with a very special program. Hila Stadler, the director of the museum, is presenting the Lucerne photographer André Paul. Hila, what are you going to show there?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me, and it's a great pleasure to be part of this show. My name is Hila Stadler. I'm curator at the Museum in Bellepark, an institution with a special interest in photography. Please allow me to talk in German. Sorry for that, and thank you. Ich möchte zuerst Ihnen eine Ausstellung vorstellen, die zurzeit läuft. Das ist eine Zusammenarbeit, und ich hoffe, die nächste Folie kommt. Das ist eine Zusammenarbeit mit Ludovic Ballon. Das läuft zurzeit im Museum im Bellepark. Die Ausstellung heißt American Readers at Home. Ludovic Ballon ist ein Grafiker und gleichzeitig Fotograf. Er lebt in Basel. Und er hat diese Arbeit, American Readers at Home, diese Arbeit hat er vor 4 Jahren, 2016, quasi gemacht. Die Basis dieses Projekts ist eine riesengroße Recherche, die er in den USA gemacht hat, 2016. Er hat während 6 Monaten sehr viele Leute getroffen und sie interviewt. Wir sehen hier eine Ansicht mit diesen Interviews auf dieser speziellen Installation, und hier die Personen, die er interviewt hat und porträtiert hat, als eine Wandinstallation. Sie sind versehen mit einem Statement, so dass quasi all diese Leute, die er getroffen hat, zu uns sprechen, zu uns besuchen, sprechen. Aber zu diesem Material gehört auch eine Art Archiv, also diesen Raum nennt Ludovic Ballon Archiv. Es ist zusammengesetzt einerseits mit, auf der Rückseite, auf der Rückwand sehen wir Covers von Zeitungen, die er selber gesammelt hat in diesen 6 Monaten. Vor und nach der Präsidentenwahl in den USA 2016, also der letzten. Und dazu kombiniert sie in Statements. Und hier sehen wir Bilder von dieser riesigen Reise, 6-monatigen Reisen, 20.000 Kilometer, die er in den USA gefahren ist, wo er quasi die Städte, die Orte und die Landschaft, die Straße, also quasi diese Sicht von der Straße auf Amerika quasi festgehalten hat. Es ist eine Analyse eines Landes, das vor einer riesen Wandlung damals 2016 stand. Ich finde es eine sehr interessante Ausstellung. Basis der Ausstellung war ein Buch, das er 2017 herausgegeben hat. Er hat es transformiert in eine Ausstellung, und jetzt hat er aus der Ausstellung wieder ein neues Buch gemacht, das New Cut heißt und jetzt quasi verfügbar ist, neu herausgekommen ist und die Erfahrung der Ausstellung darin verarbeitet ist. Und wir suchen einen Ort, eine andere Institution, die das übernehmen möchte, und werden sehr interessiert, das weiterzugeben. Aber was ich vorstellen möchte, ist unsere nächste Ausstellung, was wir im Sommer 2021 machen. Das ist eine Zusammenarbeit mit André Paul. Ich glaube, ich muss diesen Fotografen in diesem Kontext nicht näher vorstellen. André Pohl gehört zu den ganz wichtigen Fotojournalisten der Schweiz. Er ist, Sie sehen da, wo er alles quasi publiziert hat. Er ist ein Fotograf, der auch weltweit arbeitet und seine Fotobeiträge in unterschiedlichen Magazinen eigentlich platzieren kann. Mein Zugang zu André Pohl ist diese Arbeit für das Magazin, das also für diese Zeit Ende der 90er Jahre und zu Beginn oder in der ersten Dekade des 21. Jahrhunderts, wo er wie zusammen mit Grafikdesignern und Editor dieses Magazins quasi die Fotosprache der Reportage verändert hat. Die Ausstellung mit André Pohl fokussiert auf das Porträt, also wir wollen diesen Aspekt seiner Arbeit zeigen. Hier sind einige Bilder aus dieser berühmten Serie A Day in the Life of, wo er gewöhnliche Leute fotografiert hat in außergewöhnlichen Situationen. Natürlich hat er auch die besser bekannten oder berühmten Leute jetzt hier der Schweiz fotografiert. Er hat ja für die Nationalbibliothek vorgeschlagen, eine Serie zu machen mit der sogenannten, also mit Vertreten des sogenannten Cerveau la Prominenz. Und das ist eine Auftragsarbeit, die er für die Nationalbibliothek gemacht hat. Hier sehen wir natürlich seine Porträts. Der Künstler gibt es einige. Ein ganz wichtiger Teil sind seine Porträts der chinesischen Künstler, als die chinesische Kunst immer internationaler wurde. Aber wir sehen hier auch Beispiele von Jeff Koons, John Baldessari und Sarah Lucas. Und natürlich hat er auch die führenden Persönlichkeiten der Schweiz, jetzt hier der Schweiz, porträtiert. Das sind Wissenschaftler, das sind aber auch Politiker und vor allem auch Leute aus der Wirtschaft. Und viele dieser Leute, oder viele dieser Porträts sind auch eingegangen in das Magazin, also in einen editorialen Kontext. Hier sehen wir auch wiederum in der Gattung Porträt andere Beispiele, die näher an Bildgeschichten sind, also an seinen Fotoreportage, berühmt diese Albino Hunting in Tansania oder ein Beispiel der japanischen Yakuza oder hier die besser gestellten Leute im Sprüngli in Zürich. André Pohl ist jetzt in der Situation, dass er sein Archiv neu strukturiert und wir haben jetzt die Chance, quasi aus dem Archiv, also aus seinen Beständen zu schöpfen und daraus eine Ausstellung zu machen. Da gibt es eben auch solche Arbeiten, die, soviel ich weiß, nie publiziert wurden und wenig bekannt sind. Das ist eine ganz frühe Arbeit über Knechte, also das Knechteheim, wo er Porträts dieser Leute gemacht hat. Wir möchten mit André Pohl, der Ausstellung von André Pohl, einen Beitrag leisten zu quasi der Beschäftigung mit Positionen der 90er und 0er Jahre. Wir finden das sehr, sehr wichtig und wir freuen uns sehr auf die Ausstellung. Es ist ein großes Vergnügen, mit André Pohl zusammenzuarbeiten und wir freuen uns sehr auf diese Show, die im August 2021 im Museum im Bellepark stattfindet. Vielen Dank.
Danke, Hila. Now, Nathalie Herstoffer, she is the director of EMBAL in Locle, will present a project which she does as a freelance curator for the Red Cross in Geneva and I think also for Arles. Nathalie, very nice to have you here. Please start.
Thank you, Urs. So hi, everyone. Thank you for this invitation. I have chosen today to present a research that I'm currently carrying out for the Red Cross Museum in Geneva. It's not that we are not going to have photography shows in 2021 in Le Locle, but the Red Cross project is absolutely fascinating, and I want to share this one with you today. Obviously, the images that run here testify to the brutality of the war and human suffering. Whether in wars or natural disaster, there are many victims on both sides, civilians and soldiers. There are displaced populations, many deaths, prisoners. And you see here a kind of range of images that I could find in these archives. And of course, the archives also show what the cares given by the Red Cross. So we can see doctors, nurses, that will be the next one, caregivers. What I'm showing you here, it's really the range of these different images. Here, the nurse from the First World War. Postcards produced during the First World War. Very successful postcards. So mass media have gotten us used to seeing such images of suffering. The Red Cross in particular communicates extensively through photography, always putting the victims, not the war, in the foreground. So the Red Cross was founded in the 19th century. It was founded in 1863. Here you see the founders. And from the very beginning, the organization has preserved and archives photographs taken in the field. The photographic archives start with the American Civil War. Here you have an example. And the Franco-Prussian War in Europe. And above all, thousands of images can be found from the First World War, which also appears on the front page of the newspaper at that time. So ICRC, the Red Cross, is a humanitarian organization that has always seen photography as a powerful communication tool. You may remember, I'm waiting a bit, you may remember Lewis Hine, it will come very shortly. These are postcards made in the First World War. So, yeah, Lewis Hine, and you remember his photograph that condemned child labor in the US? Well, Hine also took more than 1,000 photographs for the American Red Cross. Children. It is often through their portraits that we witness the brutality of life. And here, the famine in Russia in the 1920s, a photographic survey that played a major role for the ICRC to raise funds. And they decided really to use photography. It was the best way to raise money. So photography can be found on all communication media. The research that I conduct in the archives of the Red Cross makes me discover all kinds of images from all eras, sometimes from well-known names. You recognize, I'm sure, this one. And also what is interesting, it's very different supports. So the next thing you are going to see, I mean, yeah, carte de visite from the 19th century, postcards again, that was a way to raise money for them. Different kind of albums, always by amateur photographers. Very interesting images from the early 20th century. Great posters, very rich collection. And this album by a Red Cross employee who documented his journey from Geneva to Germany in 1945 and his discovery of the concentration camps, here Buchenwald. So you certainly remember the photographs made by Lee Miller, not found in the Red Cross archives, but here are those of this amateur photographer, this employee of the Red Cross. So the photographic collections, which includes hundreds of thousands of images, bring together photographs taken by ICRC staff at work and those of professional photographers who work on commission to document the work of the Red Cross all over the world. With this project, the International Museum of the Red Cross and Red Crescent in Geneva is organizing a major exhibition that will present this photographic heritage for the first time. The aim is not to explain the history of the Red Cross with photography, but to present the uses or roles given to photography throughout its history. With this project, we are digging into history of humanitarian photography to understand better the visual grammar of these images, see how photography documents, informs, and mobilizes public opinion, how it responds to the needs of humanitarian communication. This project also allows us to discuss more generally about photography, which continues to invade the media and all our screens today. A photograph is not necessarily a document of fact, and it's certainly not the truth. There is a challenge that plays out on both sides of the process for photographers and viewers. As a photography specialist, I'm also interested to understand better how photography addresses our stereotypes and what it says that is significant about our Western way of reading an image. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathalie, for this presentation. And now, Danae Ponchot, the director and curator of Photoforum Pasquat, will present the Bénédicte Blondeau exhibition of she's planning for next year. Welcome, Danae.
Thank you, Urs.
Please start.
Yeah, and thank you everyone who is still there towards the end of this very intense afternoon. So the Photoforum Pasquat looks forward to presenting the first solo show of the young Belgian photographer Bénédicte Blondeau. This exhibition will be primarily based on her main body of work so far, entitled Ce qu'il reste, which means in English, what remains. It will be accompanied by selected additions from her most recent series. And the images that you will see today are all parts of the series Ce qu'il reste. Her work is articulated around the tension between the chilling mastery of man-made environments and the strange perfection of organic forms, which have been slowly shaped by the natural elements and by evolution. They confront us with the ephemeral nature of the turmoil of human life against the background of the slow and majestic trajectories of geology and biology. Her images are acutely beautiful and they are eerily perfect. I suspect that a lot is getting lost in the pixel mash of video transmission today, but actually each of the images that you see is extremely sharp and has impeccable and subtle tones and hues. They were shot across Europe in museums, in courthouses, such as the one that you are seeing now, and in other official buildings whose architecture and decorum are revealing of how society sees itself, as well as being statements from governments to their citizens. In dialogue with these images, caves, mountains, and seas appear utterly indifferent to the turbulences of humanity attempting to assert full control over the planet and its environment. The spaces depicted in her images are almost entirely devoid of human presence. They are silent and solemn. It is as if humanity had fully achieved its purpose by vanishing after completing the construction of these spaces. These spaces are mainly hallways, waiting rooms, reception areas, exhibition rooms, stairs, corridors, and passages. They are meant to stand for eternity or possibly to become beautiful ruins, but they are also transitory. They are not homes, they cannot be inhabited. And even the plants, animals, clouds, mineral formations, or natural elements in this series appear frozen in time by the camera, equally solemn and preserved for eternity. The artist herself says that photography can be considered the medium of the ephemeral. It shows us a moment that belongs to the past, reveals our passages in a constantly changing reality, like a star recalling our memories. It is a metaphor of the fragility of human existence. But it is that same medium, photography, which eventually leads the spectator to a change of perspective, showing what remains when the same spaces are left by those who once inhabited them with their individual stories and collective memories. It is, I think, a very singular body of work. It's complex and yet very coherent, and it is expressed through a distinct and powerful visual language. And I found it particularly impressive that it was developed in a relatively brief amount of time by someone who had only very recently graduated. So we very much look forward to presenting Bénédicte Blondeau's work in Biel, which has not been exhibited in its entirety nor in a solo show until now. The work Ce qu'il reste was published in a book in the fall of 2019 by the Portuguese publisher XYZ Books. The book has been shortlisted for several international awards, including Foto España's Best Book Award. Bénédicte Blondeau, who is currently based in Berlin, studied photography at Artphiliein in Lisbon, where she graduated in 2018, and before this at the Academy of Fine Art in Ghent, where she graduated in 2015. She previously graduated with a Master in Applied Communication, specializing in media education in Brussels in 2010. She then worked for 5 years as a media coach, multimedia and documentary movies director in the fields of media literacy, arts and culture in Belgium. And she then moved to Portugal, where she deepened her artistic practice in photography. Her work has been exhibited in Europe since 2070s, but I feel that her work has been a little bit under the radar so far, despite its quality and its singularity. And so for that reason, we are particularly happy to be dedicating to her a solo show at Fotoforum Pasquart from September to November 2021, pandemic permitting, of course. This exhibition is part of the broader engagement of the Fotoforum Pasquart towards emerging Swiss and international photographers. We relatively often present the first institutional solo show of younger artists. And our main activity is the production of solo and group exhibitions of contemporary photography, with our main focus on emerging to mid-career photographers, though we do occasionally venture into the history of photography or examine vernacular productions. And next year, alongside the exhibitions of the Pré-Fotoforum 2020 and 2021, since we had to postpone this year's exhibition due to the pandemic, we will present solo exhibitions by the Nigerian artist Anthony Ayodele Obayomi in collaboration with the Fondation Taurus in Lausanne and the Bieler Fototage. And we will present a third solo show by Swiss artist Céline Burnand. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Danae. Obviously, you are a bit faster than the images. Now it's good. Thank you very much.
I remember last year.
Last but not least, not at all least, Olivier Lugon, professor at the University in Lausanne, will present us number 5 of Transporteur, of this new project they started maybe as it is annual books. It's maybe 4 years ago now, because number 1, 2, 3, and 4 have been published, and they are fantastic. Welcome, Olivier Lugon. It's very nice to see you after a long time. Please start now.
Merci beaucoup, Urs. Effectivement, je représente donc Transborder, qui est une revue d'histoire de la photographie qui a maintenant 4 ans, qui chaque année publie un numéro thématique. Cette année, on a publié un numéro sur la photographie ouvrière, donc sur vraiment la photographie des ouvriers amateurs photographes qui documentaient leur propre vie, leur propre combat. Et le prochain numéro qui sort en février sera consacré cette fois au thème photographie et design. Ce qu'on essaie de faire, c'est de montrer combien la photographie a marqué l'histoire du design, a vraiment été partie prenante de l'essor même du domaine. Ce que l'on voit ici, ce que vous voyez, c'est une bague, et en même temps, c'est un œil. Et ce n'est pas un hasard, puisque c'est une œuvre d'une joaillière américaine qui s'appelle Margaret de Pata, qui a été une élève de Laszlo Molineux à l'Institute of Design de Chicago, et qui a, disons, cessé de faire des allers-retours entre une pratique photographique et une création d'objets, donc ici des bijoux. Et ce qui nous intéresse, un des aspects en tout cas qui nous intéresse, c'est précisément comment la photographie a été utilisée par les designers dans le processus même de création. C'est très très présent justement dans cette école, ce qui a été aussi appelé à un moment le New Bauhaus de Chicago, où les étudiants devaient avoir une pratique de photographie d'objets, et ça a vraiment marqué une génération de photographes. Et il y a notamment un article, c'est ce qu'on voit à gauche, comment cette pratique de photographie des objets a aussi finalement imprégné leur vision de la ville, leur vision du monde social. Et puis on s'intéresse à quelques grands designers qui ont une pratique extensive de la photographie, comme Charles et Ray Eames, que vous voyez en haut à droite, qui ont laissé 750 000 photographies, ou encore Ettore Sottsass, qui lui aussi a eu vraiment une pratique presque quasi de photographe professionnel. Et puis l'autre pan, et ça vaut aussi pour Sottsass, l'image que vous voyez au milieu, comment évidemment la photographie a été absolument essentielle pour promouvoir les objets de design, pour rendre désirables ces objets, depuis le Werkbund, qui très tôt a utilisé la photographie, disons, pour diffuser en masse par l'image des objets qui n'étaient pas si démocratiques que ça, malgré l'image de simplicité qu'ils pouvaient avoir. Et puis, dernier aspect, c'est un peu l'inverse, c'est comment le design a marqué les objets photographiques, notamment les appareils, comment on a cherché à rendre les appareils désirables, notamment avec le cas de Walter de Wing-Teague, qui a collaboré avec Kodak, notamment pour créer à la fin des années 20 une ligne d'appareils vraiment ciblant le public féminin et jouant sur les indistinctions entre l'appareil photo, le poudrier et la boîte à maquillage. Donc, la femme étant à la fois productrice d'images et modèle. Et puis, comme toujours, il y a une sélection d'articles très variés. On parle de la photo la présence du chien dans la photo d'enfants du 19e siècle, jusqu'à une interview de Philippe Kahn, c'est ce qu'on voit ici, donc l'ingénieur français expatrié aux États-Unis qui a inventé la photographie de téléphone portable et qui revient justement interviewé par Clément Chéroux sur l'histoire de cette fameuse première photo de téléphone portable. Voilà, alors on espère, on n'a pas encore la date ou les dates, avoir une série d'événements et de rencontres autour de notre numéro photographie et design, notamment au MUDAC à Lausanne. Et puis, on aura aussi à l'Université de Lausanne une journée d'études qui va préparer le numéro suivant, le numéro 6 de Transborder, et qui est intitulé « L'image verticale, politique de la vue aérienne ». Et donc, qui reviendra sur la question du regard vu d'en haut, et qui replacera le cas de la photographie, disons, dans un horizon plus large, des techniques de vision, mais aussi des techniques de contrôle du territoire, des pratique guerrière, donc non seulement à travers la photographie, mais aussi avec c'est un peu l'archéologie du drone, les premières technologies télévisuelles, l'imaginaire de l'operation room, etc. Voilà, et sinon, on continuera nos collaborations. Une collaboration entamée cette année, il y a quelques semaines, avec le nouveau Institut pour la photographie à Lille, où à partir de cette année, on va en fait organiser, ou Transborder va co-organiser une série de colloques. Le premier, c'était un hommage à François Brunet. Et puis, Transborder, c'est aussi devenu une collection de livres qu'on va là aussi poursuivre après la sortie du formidable livre de Stephen Siegel, qui en français s'appelle 1839, 600 pages sur la première année de la photographie 1839. Donc, une anthologie de textes où on suit pas à pas l'histoire de cette découverte. Merci.
Thank you very much for everyone who has participated either as speakers or as attendees. It was a great pleasure for Spectrum Photography in Switzerland to be the organizer of this afternoon and to be together with Ecole to be the host of this afternoon. If you are interested in what happens in photography in Switzerland, you can always watch this website, Spectrum Photography in Switzerland. It's not really a website, it's more like a GPS, because on the Find, you can find 800 places in Switzerland that deal with photography. So you can really use it as a GPS to find your way through the photo scene in Switzerland. More recently, we have also started an expert database to kind of collect all the players in the mediation of photography, writing on photography, curating photography, restoring photography, to be presented on this website. So thank you very much for all the people attending this long and interesting afternoon. Thank you very much for all the presenters. And of course, thank you very much for you, Milo, to host all this. Thank you, and I give you the last word.
Okay, thank you, Urs. It was
a great pleasure to collaborate with you. A very good stimulus for doing something in this very difficult, complex year. So I was really thrilled by the presentation from today. Very diverse scenario for 2021, and I hope all the audience enjoyed staying virtually together at Ecole in order to discover those programs. I would like to thank you again also a lot, Melissa Arslan from Spectrum and Florian Moser from Ecole. And as well, I would like to thank you again, Marco De Mutis and the three students, the three Master in Photography students. I remember the first performance was from Sarah Bastai, the second performance from Maeva Bosco, and the third performance from Manchin Zhang. So I hope we are going to meet soon with the attendees, the audience, the speakers, without the mediation of screens. But by now, I wish to all of you a nice weekend and already a happy year 2021.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye to everyone.
Bye.
Bye, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.